Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Let's Get You Painted. I'm Alec, and I'm here by myself this week, but I'm going to help you guys get through a little bit of the backlog. So, this week I am going back to painting some of the board game miniatures from the tabletop game Monster Hunter International, which is a game where some guys go and they hunt monsters. So I'm going to go back to painting Owen Pitt and Trip Jones, and yeah, that's what I'm going through this week. So I was painting them. I don't know if you guys remember in the past. I was going to paint a little bit more on the Chimera pieces that I had been painting, which was, where is it? It's right here. The Wyvern, but then I kind of worked on it off camera a little bit, and I think I got it all done. And I think it's ready for the table. So the entire thing took me about probably about an hour total, and I think that's pretty good for an hour. And I think it's going to match pretty well with the one that my son painted for because this is his Chimera faction. So this is the one he painted that he wanted it to match, but he wanted it to be a brighter color. So this is the one he painted, and then this is the one I did. So I tried to match his color scheme and his style, but made it, like I said, a little bit brighter. I think it turned out pretty well. I think they're enough that you can tell they're definitely in the same army, um, but they'll be good on the table together because you'll have like purple one, like light purple, dark purple. I think that's gonna be pretty good for the two of those. And one of the other ones to match. So this is because when I painted some other stuff for him, I went with very, very bright, very solid colors, which is this is when I painted, I think this is Skyla. So this was a little too bright for him. He wanted a little bit more like grays, I guess, which I think this turned out well, but you can definitely tell a difference between this one and this. I mean, they're not going to be bad on the table, but there's definitely a difference for how they're painted. But I think he's going to be happy, and I'm excited about him putting pieces on the table and getting some more games in. But I am going to go back to painting some more of this stuff. So I just wanted to show you guys that I did finish the Wyvern. It just got finished off camera. And then I'm just going to be painting these guys as I chat with you guys a little bit tonight. Um, One of the things I really want to try to encourage with everyone is that, sometimes I'll give you guys tips and tricks while painting. Sometimes I'll have guests on and we'll be talking about, different things that they do or what inspires them to paint. But some of the things I just want to do is I want to just give you the idea or the enthusiasm or the inspiration to get through your backlog or to get out there and paint. So if you need that inspiration to sit down for 30 minutes and work on your army, put on an episode, and you can sit with me and I will paint and chat with you, and we can just do this. I'm thinking about actually starting to do these episodes live again. I was doing them live on Twitch. I'm thinking about starting to do them live on YouTube or Twitch again, and then also obviously doing the edited versions. We'll see how it goes. But right now, obviously, I'm not live. But let's get into painting. So so far with Owen here, I've done his green pants. I've done I think some of his brown on him, and then I've done the green for his crest for Monster Hunter. So he has the Monster Hunter logo on both sides, which is like a neon green. And then I've done the pink for the body, which is the base. And then I'm gonna actually add other colors on to bright or to darken it from that super bright. I'm gonna darken it from there. And then on Trip again, so they're gonna have fairly similar uniforms. I did the dark green with the brown vest, silver on their weapons, and then again pink for the monster head. Now, what I'm trying to show here is you can actually take, two pieces. So let's say you had an army of in 40k guardsmen and you had 10 of them. You could pick all of them and do all of their pants at the same time, and then go do all of their jackets at the same time and all of their boots at the same time, and just assembly line down the line and get it all done. And it doesn't have to be perfect, but you can actually get it done so that you are fully painted and ready for your tournament. The same thing for War Machine. If you're doing it for your Gravediggers, if you're doing it for your Chimera, if you're doing it for your Crix, or if you're doing it for your Pharaoh, that's what I want to show you, that you can sit there and pick it out and start knocking it out, and get 5 colors on and make it and still make it look good. So what I wanted to do here is I wanted to add a little bit of gold, just add a little bit of fun points to some of their pieces. So I pulled gold, and I pulled a purple. I think it's a purple. Yeah. And I'm going to show you where I'm going to add a little bit of purple to the monster, and then the gold is going to go on to some of them, specifically to their armor. And it's not that they're going to have a whole lot of gold on him, but it's just going to be like the buttons. And I could do probably brass, but I think the gold is going to be just a little bit more of just shiny to show where their buttons are. And then after I get that done, what I'm going to do is, if I have the time, I will work on their faces. Now, the joke of why I got into originally painting Protectorate of Menoth is because they all had masks, and I am not good at painting faces. I'm okay at it, but I'm not really that good. And Protectorate of Menoth has almost all masks, so I used to save myself from having to do it. And with that, I didn't have to worry about masks. But these guys obviously do not have masks, and I'm gonna have to paint their faces. That's okay. So what I'm gonna do, like we were talking a couple episodes ago, I'm going to water down my paints. If you remember from the episode with Jason and Dan, we talked about, adding a 1-to-1 or sometimes a 2-to-1 to thin out your paint a little bit, so that when you then add it to the piece, the detail that's underneath will come out. So the reason I'm using a purple here, the color is actually called beaten purple. I believe it is. It's called beaten purple, or bruised. I like it specifically if you put it over a pink body or monster, I find it gives you that a really good like monster flesh because monster isn't it's not a solid color. It's normally like a combination and it's a weird one. If you go back into one of the some of the previous episodes, you'll see where I combined pinks and purples to kind of give you like a weird fleshy tone. And that's what it looks like. Let's see if it'll. And I always like how it looks. Sometimes I don't know if it's going to show up on camera really well, but I like how it shows up. And with this, you're not necessarily going for full coverage. You're just kind of taking some of the paint and it's almost as if you're applying a wash, but you're kind of giving the imperfections of the skin. So it's the idea that it's like a rotting carcass or a mutant flesh. So it's not going to be perfect. It's going to be all weird and bubbly and nasty and gooey. And by watering it down and then applying it in a awkward, not awkward, but in a irregular pattern, it gives it a more realistic look. There you go. And as it dries, it's also going to add it a little bit more. Now we're going to clean our brush. I hope everyone is doing well. I have seen that the channel has been growing nicely, which is awesome. Um, as of time of recording, we are up to 64 subscribers, which is great. Dan and Jason and myself are super excited that you guys are coming back every week and sitting down and watching with us. It makes us really happy that you guys are getting something out of this. So again, what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to go and just hit some of these little high points. And this is going to be specifically to try to just bring some additional color. So this is where his buckles, his clips, um, all those little pieces of metal on. Not magazine clips, but like clips that, things clip on. Which, I mean, I guess they could be plastic or polymer these days, but I like to think they're maybe bronze or brass. And I think this gold color makes it look very nice against the other parts of the model. And sometimes just adding a small little bit of gold or bronze or silver, just highlighting a belt buckle or a suspender can just add just a little bit more to the piece and it makes it look better. And that's nice. It's that little thing that you don't really notice until you're like, oh, actually that does, catch the eye a little bit. It's, when, you're clipping into your gear, you're like, oh yeah, there is a clip there. There is a piece. And here we are going to go to flesh. So I'm going to go with Midland flesh for Owen. And I don't know what I'm going to do for Trip yet. So we'll do Owen first. If I remember correctly from the books, Owen is supposed to have Portuguese ancestors. I think it's like Portuguese and Ukrainian, if I remember correctly. Sorry, my back has been rough. So again, we're gonna take a little bit of water. We're gonna add it in here. So I'm gonna make sure it's the right consistency by dragging it in my hand. It's a little bit wet. Now, the reason I'm gonna have it a little bit wetter than what I normally would do in this situation, and I do this specifically for faces, so I'm going to apply it. I'm going to get all the paint off my brush, and then I'm going to kind of wick it out. And this is going to allow some of the paint to get into the crevices. So it's going to give me a nice little shadow on this side of his face, or I'm sorry, on this side of his face, and it's going to give me a little bit of brighter on this. And then if I want to, I can come over here and add a little bit of more paint and get rid of that shadow. Just a little bit. As I've talked about with previous episodes, less is definitely more with painting. And I would much rather have some of that dry brushing prep come in and do a thinner coat and have those natural highlights come out than have too much and have it just glopped in. So I'm going to wait for a couple minutes on that. I think I'm going to do for Owen's hair, I'm going to do a combination of, oops, just dumped the whole thing. I'm going to do a little bit of Battlefield Brown, and I'm going to do the Midland Flesh. So I'm going to put them close to each other on the palette. And so the reason I'm not going to put them exactly next to each other or perfect is I'm going to drag and put it on as I combine the two till I get the hair color what I want. So I'm just going to keep adding some of this Midland Flesh into the brown to lighten it up a little bit. And because I already added some water to it, it's going to naturally thin it out a little bit. I think you guys should be able to see it here on the palette in the bottom right corner. There we go. Same thing as before. Put some on. And then I will take it off and let the natural highlight from dry brushing come through. And there we go. Let's see if we can get it to actually, there we go. I'm sorry, y'all. I'm gonna keep this episode a little bit shorter. My back is acting up a little bit, so I'm gonna keep this one about 20, 25 minutes. So thank you all for coming out, seeing just a little bit on how to do some faces, how to blend some skin tones, and I showed you guys a little bit of progress. So I'll see you all next time. Thank you again for coming out to Let's Get You Painted, and I'll see you next week.